The phone buzzed against my thigh, a message from Ben. I almost ignored it, focused on folding Charlie's superhero shirts into neat squares, but something made me look. Maybe it was the late hour, or the fact that Ben was supposedly in a meeting. Can't wait to taste you again. Last night was incredible. Delete this. My hands went numb. The message blinked at me, cruel and clear on the screen. The contact name above it read, Laura M. Ben had sent it to me by mistake. Laura, our next-door neighbor, the woman who borrowed cups of sugar and watched Charlie when I had dental appointments. I sat down hard on Charlie's bed, his Batman comforter crinkling under my weight. The laundry basket toppled, spilling clean clothes across the floor. My mind raced through 1,000 tiny moments, the lingering conversations over the fence, the way they laughed too long at each other's jokes at neighborhood barbecues, the late meetings that had become more frequent. Mom? Charlie's voice came from the doorway. Are you okay? I looked up at my 10-year-old son, his face pinched with concern. He was so much like his father. Same dark eyes, same worried furrow between his brows. The similarity made my stomach turn. Just tired, honey. Why aren't you doing your homework? I finished. Dad's home early. He's in the kitchen. The phone felt like it was burning through my pocket. I stood up, smoothing my hands down my jeans. Go play your video game for a bit. I need to talk to Dad. Ben was at the counter, loosening his tie, scrolling through his phone with a slight frown. He looked up when I entered, flashing that smile that had made me fall in love with him 15 years ago. Hey, babe. Meeting ended early. I can see that. My voice came out steadier than I expected. Your phone working okay? Yeah. Why? I pulled out my phone and held it up, screen facing him. Because you sent this to the wrong person. The color drained from his face so quickly I thought he might faint. Then it rushed back in an angry flush. Maggie, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you're sleeping with our neighbor? Why you're betraying not just me, but Daniel too? Their kids play with Charlie, for God's sake. He stepped toward me, hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal. Lower your voice. Charlie will hear. That's what you're worried about? Charlie hearing? Not the fact that you've destroyed our family? Don't be dramatic. It's not. If you say it's not what I think, I swear to God, Ben. My fingers curled into fists. How long? He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I used to find endearing. A few months. It just happened. We never meant. A few months, I repeated. The words tasted like ash. Through the window, I could see Laura's house, her perfectly maintained garden, the swing set where our children played together. Get out! What? Get out of this house, now, before I do something we'll both regret. This is my house, too. You can't just watch me. I pulled out my phone again. Should I forward this message to Daniel? To the whole neighborhood? To your boss? His face hardened. You wouldn't dare. Try me. The Ben I thought I knew wouldn't dare sleep with our neighbor either. So clearly I don't know what either of us is capable of anymore. We stood there, the granite counter between us like a battle line. From upstairs came the muffled sounds of Charlie's video game, the cheerful music a jarring contrast to the moment. Finally, Ben grabbed his keys. We need to talk about this rationally. When you've calmed down, get out! He left, the door clicking shut behind him with surprising gentleness. I waited until I heard his car start before I let myself shake. Let the tears come. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Ben. Probably more excuses, more lies. I deleted it without reading it. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to Emily's name. My finger hovered over the call button as I stared out the window at Laura's house, where a light had just come on upstairs. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Emily arrived with 2 bottles of wine and a fierce expression that said she was ready for war. We sat in my kitchen, the house eerily quiet without Charlie, who was at his first sleepover since everything happened. He's trying to get back in? Emily poured generously into both glasses. Every day. I took a long sip. He left another message this morning about working things out for Charlie's sake. As if destroying our family was somehow in Charlie's best interest. Classic manipulation! Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then set it face down. How's Charlie handling it? He's quiet. Too quiet. Yesterday he asked if we could still go to the Mitchells' pool party next weekend. The wine turned bitter in my mouth. Can you imagine? Standing there watching Laura parade around in her designer swimsuit, pretending she hasn't been sleeping with my husband? Don't go. Send Charlie with me and Kevin. Before I could respond, movement caught my eye through the window. Daniel Mitchell was in his driveway, loading boxes into his car. Even from here, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the mechanical way he moved. He knows, I said suddenly. Daniel knows, or at least suspects. Emily followed my gaze. How can you tell? Because that's exactly how I looked 3 days ago before the text. Like I was sleepwalking through a nightmare I couldn't quite remember. A knock at the door made us both jump. Ben stood there, and my heart did that terrible lurch it always did now. Part love, part hatred, part crushing disappointment. I need to get some things, he said when I opened the door. Won't take long. Fine. I stepped aside, letting him pass. Emily's presence seemed to throw him off balance. He headed upstairs while Emily and I watched in silence. A few minutes later, he came down with a duffel bag. Where are you staying? I asked, hating that I cared enough to ask. The Marriott downtown. He hesitated. Charlie's at Tommy's? Yes. Good. That's good. He shifted the bag on his shoulder. Maggie, can we talk? Privately? Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Emily. His jaw tightened. This isn't helping anyone. We need to discuss this rationally, like adults. Think about Charlie. Don't! My voice cracked. Don't you dare use our son to justify what you did. I'm not justifying anything. But this Cold War isn't sustainable. Laura and I... Get out! Emily stood up, her voice low and dangerous. Now! He left, the door closing with that same infuriating gentleness. Through the window, I watched him walk to his car. As he pulled away, Daniel Mitchell appeared at the end of his driveway, staring after Ben's car with an expression I recognized all too well. I need to talk to him, I said. Daniel, are you sure that's wise? He deserves to know. And maybe... I trailed off, watching Daniel return to his boxes. Maybe we can help each other. Be careful, Emily warned. Revenge might feel good, but it can consume you. This isn't about revenge. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't entirely true. It's about justice, about consequences. Later that night, after Emily left, I sat in Charlie's room, folding the last of his laundry. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know about Ben and Laura. We should talk. Daniel. I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about consequences and justice and the thin line between the two. Through the window, I could see Laura's silhouette moving behind their bedroom curtains, probably getting ready for bed, probably thinking she was safe in her perfect little world. I typed back, tomorrow, coffee shop on Main, 10 a.m. The response came immediately. I'll be there. I put the phone down and picked up Charlie's favorite stuffed dinosaur, the one he'd had since he was 3. Everything I did now would affect him, would shape his understanding of love and trust and family. But so would letting Ben and Laura's betrayal go unpunished. The dinosaur stared back at me with its worn button eyes, offering no answers. But I already knew what I had to do. Daniel's laptop screen cast a blue glow across his face as he pulled up the bank statements. We sat in his home office, the house empty while Laura took their kids to soccer practice. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here we were, 2 betrayed spouses, hunched over financial records like detectives. There, he pointed to a series of transactions. Every month for the past 6 months, Laura's been transferring $5,000 to an account I've never seen before. My throat tightened. Ben's been doing the same from our joint account. I thought it was for Charlie's college fund. They're planning something. Daniel's voice was flat, controlled. These transfers started right around the time the affair began, I finished. The pieces were falling into place like a twisted puzzle. But why so much money? Before Daniel could answer, his phone buzzed. Laura's face flashed on the screen. He declined the call, his hand trembling slightly. She's been asking about the investment account, he said. Wanting to make another transfer. I've been stalling. I leaned closer to the screen, scanning the numbers. Wait, look at these dates. The transfers always happen right after Ben's business trips. Laura's spa weekends, too. Daniel pulled up another window, which apparently weren't at any spa I can find charges for. My stomach lurched. They were meeting up, using our money to fund their little getaways. A car door slammed outside. We both froze. Through the window, I saw Ben's Mercedes pulling into my driveway next door. He got out, carrying a gift bag with bright tissue paper sprouting from the top. Charlie's birthday present, I said bitterly. He thinks he can buy forgiveness with overpriced video games. Daniel was still staring at the screen. There's something else. An email chain I recovered from Laura's deleted folder. They've been looking at houses. Houses? In Colorado, where Ben's company is opening that new office. The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the edge of the desk, my knuckles white. They're planning to leave. Together. With our money, Daniel's voice cracked. And probably try for custody of the kids. A notification popped up on the laptop. An email from Laura to Ben sent an hour ago. Everything's set for next month. Dee doesn't suspect anything. Can't wait to start our new life. Love you. The casual cruelty of it, the complete disregard for the lives they were destroying, hit me like a physical blow. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. I need Ben's laptop, I said. He always leaves it in his home office when he visits Charlie. Daniel looked up sharply. What are you thinking? That it's time to stop being victims. I moved toward the door. Cover for me if Laura comes back. I slipped out of Daniel's house and into mine through the back door. Sure enough, I could hear Ben and Charlie upstairs, probably setting up whatever new game he'd bought. The sound of their laughter felt like glass in my chest. Ben's laptop was exactly where I knew it would be, charging on his desk. I'd watched him type his password countless times over the years. Charlie's birthday, plus the year we met. Sentimental, for a man planning to abandon his family. The folder wasn't hard to find. Ben had always been overconfident, never believing anyone would dare to look. Photos, emails, bank statements, real estate listings, everything Daniel and I needed to prove the depth of their betrayal. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly sent everything to my email, then closed the laptop. When Ben appeared in the doorway, I was standing at the window, watching Laura's car pull into her driveway. What are you doing in here? He asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. I turned to face him, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. Just remembering who you used to be, the man I thought you were. His face softened, that manipulative, practiced softness I now saw through completely. Maggie, I know things are difficult right now, but Charlie loved his present, I cut him off. Thank you for that, at least. I walked past him, our shoulders barely brushing. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with the confirmation that all the files had been received. Game on. The evidence sat in my inbox like a loaded gun. Every time I opened my laptop, I felt its weight, its potential for destruction. But something held me back from pulling the trigger. Charlie's voice drifted up from the backyard where he was playing with Laura's kids. The sound stopped me cold. Their laughter, their innocent games, their world still whole and unshattered. My phone buzzed. Daniel. Laura's asking about the investment account again? Getting suspicious? We need to move soon. I watched through the window as Charlie showed Laura's youngest how to catch a baseball. The sight of them together made my chest ache. One revelation, and all of this would end, not just for Ben and Laura, but for their children too. The doorbell rang. Emily stood there with a determined look and a manila envelope. You need to see this, she said, pushing past me into the kitchen. Kevin handled Ben and Laura's mortgage refinance last month. He shouldn't show me client documents, but she spread papers across the counter. Look at the beneficiary information. My hands trembled as I read. They've already bought the house in Colorado, in both their names. There's more. Emily pointed to a paragraph near the bottom. They used Charlie's college fund as part of the down payment. The room spun. I gripped the counter, my knuckles white. That money was for his future. Maggie! Emily's voice softened. You have enough to destroy them both. Why are you waiting? Before I could answer, Charlie burst through the back door, face flushed with excitement. Mom, can Jake and Sarah come over tomorrow? Their mom said it's okay if you say yes. I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was smiling, but there was something careful in his eyes, like he was watching for cracks in my expression. We'll see, honey. Why don't you go get cleaned up for dinner? After he left, Emily gathered the papers. You can't protect him forever. The truth will come out eventually. I know. I sank into a chair. But what if my revenge hurts him more than their betrayal? The front door opened. Ben, using his key like he still had the right. He stopped short when he saw Emily. I need to talk to Maggie, he said. Alone. Emily squeezed my shoulder before leaving. Ben took her seat, looking more disheveled than usual. The transfer to Colorado is happening sooner than expected. Next week. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I want Charlie to come with me. The calm in my voice surprised me. You want to take our son away from his school, his friends, his home? He'll adjust. Kids are resilient. Like he'll adjust to you living with Laura? To watching you destroy 2 families? His head snapped up. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, opened the folder of evidence. Should we start with the house you bought together? Or the money you stole from Charlie's future? The color drained from his face. You had no right to protect my son? To expose your lies? I stood up, my shadow falling across him. You want a war, Ben? Because I have the nuclear option right here. Think about what you're doing, he said, but his voice shook. Think about Charlie. I am thinking about Charlie. I'm thinking about the day he'll learn what kind of man his father really is. I moved toward the door. You have 24 hours to tell Laura it's over and transfer the college fund back. Or everyone sees everything. You're bluffing. I opened the door. Try me. After he left, I called Daniel. We need to meet tonight. I'm ready, he said. Whatever it takes. I ended the call and walked upstairs to Charlie's room. He was sitting on his bed, clutching his dinosaur, and I knew he'd heard everything. Mom? His voice was small. Are we going to Colorado? I sat beside him, pulling him close. No, honey, we're staying right here, and I promise you, everything's going to be okay. It wasn't exactly a lie. Things would be okay, just not in the way anyone expected. Not even me. The annual neighborhood block party loomed ahead like an execution date. I sat in Daniel's garage, surrounded by strings of party lights we were testing, each bulb casting shadows that danced like accusations across the walls. Ben hasn't transferred the money back, I said, untangling another strand. And Laura's still planning to host the party. Daniel's laugh was hollow. Of course she is. Can't let anyone suspect her perfect life is falling apart. He checked his phone. The company announcement about the Colorado office goes out Monday. A light bulb shattered in my hand. I barely felt the sting. We can't wait any longer, Daniel said, watching me brush glass from my palm. They're going to take everything if we don't move first. The garage door opened, and Laura walked in, wearing her signature perfect smile. There you are, Daniel. Margaret, I didn't expect to see you here. Just helping with party prep. I held up the lights, letting her see the blood on my hand. Her smile flickered. How neighborly. Though I was hoping to discuss the party details with Daniel privately. No secrets between neighbors, right? The words tasted like poison. Laura's phone chimed. She glanced at it, and for a split second her mask slipped. Fear flashed across her face. Everything okay? Daniel asked, his voice carefully neutral. Fine, just work. She backed toward the door. I need to make some calls. After she left, Daniel showed me his laptop screen. A program was running, tracking Laura's phone activity. That message was from Ben. They're getting nervous. Good. I pulled up the event details on my phone. The block party's always the same. Laura makes her speech thanking everyone for being such wonderful neighbors. This year she'll have a different kind of audience participation. You're sure about this? Once we start... They're planning to announce their relationship at the office on Monday, I cut in. Present it as a fresh start. 2 people who found love and handled things responsibly. They'll paint us as the bitter exes who couldn't let go. A car door slammed next door. Through the window I saw Ben entering our house. My house. Probably for another attempt at manipulating Charlie. Did you see the latest transfer? Daniel pulled up the bank records. They're moving more money, faster now. My phone buzzed with a text from Charlie. Dad says we're having a family meeting tonight. Do I have to go? Another message followed from Ben. We need to discuss Charlie's future, all of us. Bring Laura's mortgage paperwork if you want to talk about that too. The threat was clear. They were done waiting. The party's tomorrow, I said, standing up. Time to give them the audience they deserve. I walked home, each step feeling heavier than the last. Through the kitchen window, I could see Ben sitting with Charlie at the dinner table, probably spinning more lies about our happy future in Colorado. Emily's words echoed in my head. You can't protect him forever. My phone buzzed again, Daniel sending the final piece of evidence we'd uncovered. An email chain between Ben and Laura discussing how to handle the unfortunate necessity of separating their children from their unstable parents. They weren't just planning to take our money and our dignity. They were going to take our children. I opened the door, watching Ben's face shift from fatherly concern to calculated wariness. Charlie looked between us, clutching his dinosaur like a shield. Perfect timing, Ben said. We were just discussing. Charlie, go upstairs, please. But Dad said, now, honey. After Charlie left, Ben's smile turned cold. You're only making this harder on everyone. I pulled out my phone, showing him the email chain. Unstable parents? You're proving my point right now. He stood up, towering over me. Think carefully about your next move, Maggie. Some bells can't be unrung. I met his gaze, feeling oddly calm. Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you. Tomorrow, at the block party, everyone would know exactly who Ben and Laura really were. The thought should have brought satisfaction, but all I felt was a deep, hollow certainty. There would be no winners here, only survivors. The block party hummed with forced cheerfulness, strings of lights casting shadows across fake smiles and whispered conversations. I stood near the dessert table, watching Laura work the crowd like a politician, Ben hovering nearby with his practiced charm. Charlie tugged at my sleeve. Mom, can I go play with Jake and Sarah? Stay where I can see you. My voice sounded distant, even to myself. Emily appeared at my elbow, gripping a wine glass too tightly. Daniel's ready? Are you sure about this? Before I could answer, Laura clinked her glass, gathering everyone's attention. Thank you all for coming to our annual neighborhood celebration. I felt the USB drive in my pocket like a burning coal. Daniel stood by the makeshift stage, laptop ready, waiting for my signal. Our community is built on trust, friendship, and family values, Laura continued, her perfect smile never wavering. Now, I whispered into my phone. The projector screen behind Laura flickered to life. Her voice faltered as emails, bank statements, and photos began scrolling across it. The crowd's murmur shifted from confusion to shock. What is this? Laura's voice cracked. The truth. I stepped forward, my heart pounding. About the affair, about the stolen money, about your plans to take our children to Colorado. Ben moved toward the laptop, but Daniel blocked his path. Don't, Daniel said quietly. It's already been sent to everyone's phones. The crowd parted as I walked toward them, phones buzzing with notifications. Laura's mask cracked, revealing raw panic beneath. You're making a scene, Ben hissed. Think about Charlie. I am thinking about Charlie. I turned to face our neighbors. They've been stealing from our children's futures to fund their affair. The proof is in your inboxes. Laura laughed, high and brittle. This is ridiculous. Daniel, tell them. Tell them what? Daniel's voice was ice. About the house you bought? The money you've been moving? The whispers grew louder. I saw recognition dawn on faces as they read their phones, followed by disgust, judgment, shock. Then Charlie's voice cut through the chaos. Dad? He stood at the edge of the crowd, clutching his dinosaur, staring at the screen where a particularly intimate email was displayed. Charlie, wait! Ben reached for him, but Charlie backed away. You said we were moving for your job. Charlie's voice trembled. You said Mom was being difficult. You lied. The moment fractured. Charlie turned and ran. Ben moved to follow, but I blocked his path. Haven't you done enough? Laura grabbed my arm. You've ruined everything. No, I said, shaking her off. You did that yourselves. But as I turned to follow Charlie, Ben's voice stopped me cold. I've already filed for emergency custody, claiming emotional instability. This little stunt proves my point. The ground seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Through the crowd's shocked murmurs, I heard Laura add, We have character witnesses, documentation, your obsession with revenge, your erratic behavior. Emily stepped forward. You manipulative. Save it, Ben cut her off. The hearing's Monday. Should be interesting. Explaining to a judge how you stalked and harassed us, invaded our privacy, turned our children against us. I looked around at the faces of our neighbors, some sympathetic, others uncertain, a few already turning away. What had seemed like justice now felt like a noose tightening around my neck. You won't win, I said, but my voice shook. Ben's smile was almost pitying. I already have. Come on, Laura. They left together, heads high, leaving me standing in the wreckage of my plan. Daniel touched my shoulder, but I barely felt it. Mom? Charlie's voice came from behind me, small and lost. Are they really taking me away? I turned to face my son, seeing the fear in his eyes, and realized with crushing clarity what I'd done. In my quest for justice, I'd given them exactly what they needed to destroy me. The party lights flickered overhead, casting alternating light and shadow across the scattered remains of my revenge, while somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, a warning too late to heed. The courthouse hallway stretched before me like a gauntlet. Ben and Laura stood at the far end, heads bent together in conversation. Emily squeezed my hand before taking her seat on the witness bench. Ready? Daniel appeared beside me, holding a manila envelope. I nodded, watching Charlie through the window as he sat in the waiting area with Emily's husband, Kevin. My son hadn't spoken much since the block party, but his silence said everything. Mrs. Davis? My lawyer approached, frowning at her phone. There's been a development. Laura Mitchell wants to speak with you, alone. Ben's head snapped up at Laura's approach, his face darkening. Laura, don't... Enough, Ben! Her perfect mask had cracked, revealing something raw underneath. She gestured to an empty conference room. Inside, Laura paced like a caged animal. I'm pregnant. The words hit like a physical blow. Is it Ben's? Yes, she laughed, brittle and sharp. Found out yesterday. Convenient timing, right? Another weapon for the custody hearing. Why are you telling me this? Because I saw Charlie's face at the party. She stopped pacing. I saw what we did to him. What we're still doing. Before I could respond, the door opened. Ben stood there, fury radiating off him in waves. Whatever you're thinking, don't, he warned Laura. I found something else yesterday, too. Laura pulled out her phone, hands shaking. While packing for Colorado. Tell her about the offshore accounts, Ben. The ones you've been moving company money into. The color drained from Ben's face. You're lying. Am I? She turned to me. He's been embezzling for years. The house, the affair, it was all funded with stolen money. I have proof. Shut up! Ben grabbed for the phone, but Daniel appeared in the doorway, blocking his exit. The company's already investigating, Daniel said quietly. Anonymous tip. Ben's facade crumbled. In that moment, I saw him clearly. Not the charming man I'd married, but a cornered animal, desperate and dangerous. You really want to do this? He turned to me. Fine. Let's tell the judge everything. How you hacked my computer. How you and Daniel conspired. Tell them. Charlie's voice came from behind Daniel. He stood there, clutching his dinosaur, eyes bright with tears and determination. I'll tell them too. About the lies. About Colorado. About everything. Charlie, go back outside, Ben ordered. No! Charlie stepped into the room. I heard you and Laura talking last week. About the money. About making Mom look crazy so you could take me away. Laura pressed her phone into my hand. Everything's here. The accounts, the transfers, the emails, planning it all. I'm done protecting him. You'll lose everything, Ben hissed at her. I already have. She rested a hand on her stomach. But I won't let you destroy anyone else. The bailiff appeared in the doorway. Judge is ready. I looked at the phone in my hand, then at Charlie's determined face, and finally at Ben, the man who'd thought he could take everything from me. The hearing's canceled, I said. We're going to the police instead, right now. You can't. Watch me. I turned to my lawyer. Call the district attorney and the SEC. Ben lunged for the phone, but Daniel caught him. In the struggle, Charlie's dinosaur fell, splitting open along a seam. Papers spilled out. Documents Charlie had been secretly collecting, overheard conversations he'd written down, dates and times of suspicious calls. My son had been building his own case all along. Ben sagged in Daniel's grip, seeing the evidence of his son's quiet rebellion. Laura was already talking to the bailiff, confessing everything. I knelt beside Charlie, gathering his scattered notes. Why didn't you tell me? You were protecting me, he said simply. I wanted to protect you, too. Outside the conference room, I heard the growing commotion as police arrived. Ben's carefully constructed world was crumbling, but Charlie's hand was warm in mine, anchoring me to what really mattered. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about protecting what they never truly valued in the first place. The moving boxes made our living room look smaller. Charlie sat cross-legged on the floor, carefully wrapping his dinosaur collection in newspaper. Through the window, I could see Daniel loading his own moving truck, heading for a fresh start on the other side of town. Found something, Charlie said, pulling a crumpled paper from inside his favorite T-Rex. Another one of his secret notes, dated from before everything fell apart. I sat beside him, smoothing out the page. His childish handwriting documented a conversation between Ben and Laura about their Colorado dreams, followed by a simple question. Why isn't Mom enough? I don't need this anymore, Charlie said, balling up the paper. We're okay now, right? The newspaper headline on the coffee table caught my eye. Tech executive faces embezzlement charges. Ben's corporate headshot stared back at me, his practiced smile now seeming hollow. We're more than okay, I said, helping Charlie wrap another dinosaur. We're free. The doorbell rang. Laura stood there looking different, softer somehow, her perfect facade replaced by something more human. Her pregnancy was starting to show. The company's releasing the recovered funds, she said, holding out an envelope. Your portion of what Ben stole. Daniel has his too. I took the envelope without opening it. How are you doing? Taking it day by day. She touched her stomach. The baby deserves better than a prison visiting room, but she'll know the truth when she's old enough. No more perfect lies. Charlie appeared in the doorway. Is it a girl? Laura nodded, tears threatening. Would you like to be her honorary big brother? Help her understand things someday? Maybe, Charlie said, considering. If Mom says it's okay. The simple trust in his voice made my throat tight. After everything, he still looked to me for guidance, for protection. We'll see, I said. One day at a time. After Laura left, I found Charlie in his room, placing his last dinosaur in a box. The empty house next door cast long shadows across his wall. Mom? He held out a sealed envelope. I wrote this during the court stuff, when I was scared about everything. Inside was a letter, written in his careful school penmanship. Dear Mom, I know you think you have to be strong all the time, but I saw you crying when you thought I was asleep. It's okay. You taught me that being strong means telling the truth, even when it hurts. You're the strongest person I know. Love, Charlie. I didn't give it to you then, he said, but I want you to have it now. I pulled him close, breathing in the familiar scent of his hair. Outside, a moving truck engine started, Daniel beginning his own journey toward healing. Emily's car pulled into our driveway, right where Ben's Mercedes used to park. She'd been helping us pack, preparing for our move to the smaller house across town. Not running away, just starting fresh. Ready for pizza? She called through the window. Kevin's bringing Charlie's favorite, Charlie brightened. Can we eat it picnic style, since all the furniture's packed? Perfect idea. As Charlie ran downstairs, I looked around his half-packed room. The dinosaur collection was safely boxed, but one remained on his windowsill. The T-Rex with the split seam, the one that had carried his secret evidence. He'd repaired it carefully, the stitches small and precise. Like the dinosaur, we weren't broken anymore. Changed, scarred maybe, but stronger where we'd been mended. I picked up another box, feeling its weight, not just possessions, but memories. Lessons learned, truths finally spoken. Below, Charlie's laughter mixed with Emily's voice, the sound of our chosen family coming together. Some would call it karma, how everything turned out. But standing there, surrounded by the pieces of our new life waiting to be unpacked, I realized it was something simpler. It was justice, yes. But more than that, it was freedom. The freedom to be imperfect, to be honest, to be ourselves. And that was better than any revenge could ever be.